Yo, what is up guys? So we're here to check out the new 6 Samurais utilizing Link format or the Link monsters. This is a build specifically for this, courtesy of Ploxy YGO over here. He's definitely going to be showcasing off how to utilize 6 Samurais in Link format. Now, I did cover 6 Samurais a while back, but the thing is they're coming out tomorrow here in the TCG. November 16th is when we're getting a bunch of the new 6 Samurai stuff. There is one card that I'm not sure if we're getting, which we'll talk about in a second, and I'll mention everything. I'll give you guys a little deck profile here from the videos, but I really want to show you guys how 6 Samurais can work in Link format, and they can definitely work pretty well. As you guys can see over here, we got Gateway. It's gonna have like 500 counters on it, and interesting enough, I just wanted to mention for any of you guys that play Yu-Gi-Oh in real life, the Shien's Dojo or any of the 6 Samurai cards where you get to place the counters on it, even when your opponent goes for them, you will still be able to get counters on your card. That's what's so insane with it. But, I mean, pretty much when your opponent has Gateway, you're going to be losing the game anyway. So don't worry. Even though there's going to be like 50 counters on Shien's Dojo, he won't be able to utilize them because they're not going to be there. But 6 Samurais can definitely work in Link format, and like I said, it's coming out, so I had a lot of people asking me to get some footage of the new 6 Samurais, even though I covered it a while ago, but I wanted to cover it with this build that Ploxy made because it's definitely utilizing links, because I did not utilize links at all. In fact, the new fusion monster is just too difficult, I would say, to pull out for most people. Like, I would rather just make another card, which we'll get into later when we go over the deck profile. But it's kind of there just because, you know, if you can make it, you know, in the right scenarios, it's kind of fun to make. But look, we still got Gateway counters. There's so many searchability in 6 Samurais with Gateway. I mean, you're just going to add a 6 Samurai from your deck or your graveyard to your hand, which is going to be the keys on, which you can just keep on special summoning over and over again. But anyways, let's go ahead and check out a few different variants of it in action. I have no idea what the heck this guy was playing. I think it was supposed to be some like utilization of the vanilla Phantom Knights, but we're really just here to check out the 6 Samurais because that's what a lot of people again want to see. I know we're seeing another Gateway here. All the replays aren't Gateways, I promise, but it's really showcasing off Scoldy just being super good. Even though it was actually destroyed by Ghost Ogre the last turn, the guy still went off. It's because this card, it really should have stayed on the ban list. Let me know in the comment section below if you guys think Gateway should have stayed on the ban list or not, because I think this card in Link format, it's just way too good. Now, in this scenario, he only had a Firewall, he only had a Skull Deep, but most of the time in this deck, it is kind of like one of those new decks that can incorporate like the generic Link monster setup, which is trying to get like Firewall Dragons, and in addition to that, the Tri-Gate Wizard. And pretty much from there, your opponent doesn't have very many options. It'd be more optimal if you summoned it over here, but you know, we'll get into that later. But for the most part, it's a deck that's going to be able to, again, incorporate the setup of I've won the game. And again, with Gateway, it's a pretty easy thing to do. I almost feel like if you just search out Gateway, you basically win the game in almost every scenario. Like I said, I don't know what the other guy was playing. It wasn't very meta, but I wanted to include this replay. This one's actually pretty funny. You guys are going to see Backs to the Wall, which is actually a pretty all-in card. So you pay life points so that you only have 100 left, and you special summon as many 6 Samurai monsters with different names from your graveyard as possible, and you cannot special summon a monster with the same name as the monster you already control. But basically, it lets you get out a bunch of monsters. So he's trying to abuse Scoldy in this, and what he's trying to get out with it is that ability to just cycle through a bunch of cards, hopefully getting the Gateway, and obviously utilizing all those cards to make the Scoldy. He's able to just bring everything right back with Back to the Wall. Now, you only have 100 life points, but pretty much you will be winning the game if you go for like this, plus the ability to obviously get an additional like special summon, and then you can trigger the Kizaru's effect. Now, unfortunately, he got wrecked by the Drowning Mirror Force, so with no monsters left on the field, Trickstar Kadena is going to be attacking for a game, but he's going to go ahead and go with Lilybell. I don't know what the heck this deck was. It's a very interesting mix-up of Trickstars. We got the Holy Angel and then also the Vampires. Kind of opposite mix-up of decks. But I just thought that one was funny and I wanted to include it. But also I want to showcase off Backs to the Wall because it was pretty funny that we did see it in action. I think it's an okay card. Like I said, it's an all-in card basically. If you already go for your play and let's say it doesn't go well, you have that kind of as a rebuttal. But I want to say most times in Yu-Gi-Oh, like, there is no comebacks for the most part. I don't know what the heck this guy is playing here, but We have backs to the wall, we have Fuma over here, and I'll give you guys like a brief deck profile, and I'll explain some of the cards, just in case maybe you guys haven't seen it. But we're really just, again, using Scoldy. When he gets that 4 materials, he's able to just cycle through the deck, and hopefully drawing, again, Gateway is the key card that you want in this deck. And 6 Samurais, they can go through like half their deck like really fast, just because you have the Uniteds, you have a lot of cards, Smoke Signals to search out other cards, and you have Reinforced Melee Army, and there's just so many other cards that let you search out another card. I actually would play 2 pot of Cupidity, but you guys can see it's with no monsters left on the field, it's going to be game. It's going to happen quite often. Now, he did summon the Fusion Monster Rehand. I just don't think Rehand is that good in Link format, just because there's just better options. But I wanted to go over the effect just because it is a newer card, and like I said, it's coming out tomorrow, so there's a lot of people that are interested in building the deck. Now, this is the one that you guys saw from the replay. However, I can make some extra suggestions for you guys, which I'll get into in a second. But first off, I just want to give you guys like the one that you saw in the video, just in case any of you guys just want like a way to start building your deck. And obviously, you guys can make changes and adjustments to suit your playstyle. But anyways, let's go ahead and go over the deck, and I'll kind of explain some things just because 6 Samurais is an older archetype, and we still are using some of the older cards in this build. There are a few other cards I want to just mention just in case you want to try something else out, but I'll briefly explain their effects so you guys can understand how to utilize them. So the 6 Samurais basically benefit off of having another 6 Samurai on board. Otherwise, a lot of them just lose out on effects. Some of them gain boost of attack, some of them gain like other additional bonus effects. But Grandmaster over here, he just lets you special summon himself if you control another 6 Samurai, so that's basically what he's used for. But if this card in your possession is destroyed by opponent's card effect, you get to target a 6 Samurai monster in your graveyard and add that to your hand. So if they get rid of something by card effect, you're able to search out. Usually it's like a Keyzone or something like that, but for the most part, he's just utilized in this Link version of the deck just for the ability just to have another monster, and that it also is a 6 Samurai monster because it helps out with some of the counters and stuff. Next up, we have 2 copies of Kizaru in this build. Kizaru has effect when it is special summoned, and that's not just from a 6 Samurai's effect. You get to add from your deck to your hand 1 6 Samurai monster with a different attribute from every monster you control. And then a lot of the newer Shadow 6 Samurais, now that they are actually called the Secret 6 Samurai in the TCG. That's what they're called, just as a heads up. If you see where it says Shadow on the top, and then I know it says Secret 6 Samurai in the text, but that's just TCG, OCG, different name for any of you guys that are wondering. But anyways, whenever he gets special summoned, you get to add from your deck here 1 6 Samurai monster, and that can actually be utilized through multiple effects. This card over here has the Scoldy as a 3+. Once per turn, you can special summon 1 monster from your hand, and there's also Firewall Dragon. You're able to, what is it? If monster with this card points to destroy battle, no, that's, yeah, you can special summon 1 monster from your hand. So there's a lot of effects where you're able to special summon additional monsters from your hand, so this can definitely be good for that. So you get extra searchability. Next up, we have Keyzone. He's kind of like the Grandmaster of the 6 Samurai, where you're just able to just special summon it, and then one control 2 or more other 6 Samurai monsters. This card gains additional 300 attack and defense. It's mediocre. He was utilized back for the Exceed format, where you'd be able to make like Castell and other things like that. He was kind of helpful in those scenarios. There's also technically one Exceed that 6 Samurais got. It was a newer card. No one really played him too often. However, he does have a cool combo with the effect of Kageki, because he's able to target a 6 Samurai monster control with less than 2,000 attack. Its original attack becomes 2,000. This card gains an additional 1,500 attack, so it becomes 1,700, but then it gets boosted up another 2,000 basically, because yeah, this card changes its original attack, so it becomes 37, I believe, or 35, I think, is what it becomes, because it changes the original attack to 2,000. So then it makes it 3,500. Pretty good stuff. And then you can obviously boost that up with Shin's Dojo. So maybe you can run over some like bigger monsters if you need to do so. But yeah, this is just a special summon. Again, it will definitely be good in links. And then next up, we have the Legendary Shadow 6 Samurai. We know we're special a Secret 6 Samurai monster. You can just special summon from your hand. You can only use this effect of it once per turn. But then also once per turn, you manage a level 4 lower 6 Samurai monster from your graveyard until the end of this turn. This card's attribute level and attack become the monster's original attribute level and attack. So it can help you technically with like Exceeds if you want to play that, or if you want to synchro to something, you can definitely utilize that as well. We didn't even see Xian busted out. However, against certain decks like Pendulums, this could definitely be a great card because you can just stop them in their tracks. But more than often, a Cherry Beast just tends to be like the better option. Whenever you can make Xian He is like mediocre, I would say, nowadays with all the monster effects, but Atreus is still like just an optimal card. But anyways, next up we have 2 copies of Hatsume. I'm not really a fan of Hatsume, but this build did play it. But anyways, you banish 2 6-star monsters from your graveyard and or face up from your field. Then you target 1 6-star monster in your graveyard except for itself, and then special summon it. So basically, you gotta have like 3 monsters. It's kind of a card where you invest into like a play, and then you go ahead and follow up with a Hatsume. Yeah, and then most of the secret 6 samurais have the effect where if exactly 1 6-star monster you control and no other cards would be destroyed by a card effect, you can banish this card from the graveyard instead, which kind of goes counterproductive with this. But yeah, I've never been a fan of Hatsume. There's another card that utilizes the banish effects, but we'll talk about a lot of the other like suggestions I have in a second. But anyways, next up we have 2 copies of Elder. So this card, if your opponent controls a monster and you control no monsters, basically if your opponent goes first, you just get to special summon from your hand. And then it also technically works well with asceticism with 6 samurai, which lets you special summon another 6 samurai from your deck with the same attack but a different name. So that really helps out with getting out our other card, Kagemusha. But next up, we got 3 copies of Kageki. So when this card is normal summon, you get to special summon 1 level 4 or lower 6 samurai monster from your hand. That can usually be Kizaru, because then Kizaru will then add you another copy of like another 6 samurai, which could be Kizan. Then you could then special summon Kizan. Yeah, it's basically Kageki in a nutshell. And then we have Genba over here. So when this card is normal summon, you target one of your banished 6 samurai monsters and add it to your hand. So with the effects of like Hatsume, where you're actually banishing the cards, you can utilize that, getting them back to your hand. And then obviously it has again that other secret 6 samurai effect, which I mentioned before, which you banish it if one of them would be destroyed. Next up, we got the Kagemusha. So he actually has like another effect that doesn't really get used too much, but when either player during either player's turn, when exactly 1 6-star monster you control would be targeted by a spell, trap, or an effect that could have targeted this card, you could activate this effect that it basically makes him target that. But the most important thing is he is a tuner, which then allows you to go into your Shan or your Natray Beast. Next up, we have 3 copies of Shadow of the 6 Samurai Fuma. So this card is kind of like the new card that really incorporated the build of the True Kings, although that deck doesn't really function too well with 6 Samurais. But Shadow of the 6 Samurai, or Secret 6 Samurai Fuma, has that effect when it is destroyed by battle by card effect. You can special summon a 6 Samurai monster from your deck except for itself, and then you can banish it if exactly 1 6 Samurai would be destroyed by card effect. So he lets you go into other cards. An important thing that this card does state that it is 200 for its original attack. So just keep that in mind with some of the cards like Asceticism and stuff like that. We have another copy of 1 form, so basically it's another copy of Fuma. Then we have Reinforcement of the Army. We have 1 pot of Desires. I actually think 2 is great in this deck because this deck is basically like a turn 1 or nothing. Like, I mean, a lot of decks are like that right now, especially with the whole like Trigate Wizard setup. But yeah, next up we have 3 copies of Smoke Signal. Again, you're able to basically just cycle through like almost half of your deck. Like if you activate one of these, you'll go through half of your deck easily within the first turn. Next up we have 1 Upstart. 2 copies of Asceticism. I always like this card at 3, but again, those are just my suggestions. We have 1 copy of Gateway. Obviously, play Gateway. It's a great card. Then we have 2 copies of Dojo. Again, keep in mind that when your opponent's activating, their 6 samurais when they're special summoning, you will also be able to place a Bushido counter. This can just help out if you happen to have like multiple Dojo and then you have like United. You can remove counters anywhere when you're activating Gateway. Gateway actually has like 5,000 effects. So every time a 6 samurai monster is no more special, you get to place 2 counters on it. And keep in mind, those counters can be used from Gateway on other cards. But anyways, you can remove Bushido counters from your field to activate these effects. So with 2 counters, you can boost up a 6 samurai or a Xian monster to gain 500 attack, and at 4 counters, which is the most popular effect, you to add 1 6 samurai monster from your deck or your graveyard to your hand. With 6 counters, you get to target 1 Xian effect monster in your graveyard and special on that target. You really don't need that effect at all, really. Like, it's very, very rare that people will be using that effect because you would rather just add the card because this card just special summons itself and you just go into more links, as you guys saw from the replays. But yeah, then Dojo, it gets counters on it, but you only get 1 counter on it per time, and then you send it to the graveyard, and then you get to special summon 1 6RM or Xian effect monster from your main deck whose level is less than or equal to the number of Bushido counters on this card. So this lets you special summon whatever you want from your deck. as long as, again, you have the counters for it, which is a pretty easy thing to do with a lot of these stuff, especially when you're going for the link stuff. You'll definitely be able to utilize it. Next up, we have 3 copies of Pot of Greed. This is basically Pot of Greed in the deck. Each time a 6 samurai monster is normal or special, you place 1 counter on it. It can only have 2 counters, which is actually an important thing. So keep that in mind when you're playing this deck, that it can only have 2 counters, because you actually want to remove counters off of this card so you can place more counters on it later. Again, it just helps out with your plays with Gateway. But yeah, you just draw 1 card for each Bushido counter on this by sending it to the graveyard. So basically, you just get to draw 2 with it. And again, it lets you place counters on it, which is important. Next up, we have 3 copies of, well, it basically gets you double 6 samurais. You target 2 6 samurai monsters in your graveyard. You special summon those in attack position. But then during the end phase, you destroy them, and then you take damage equal to those destroyed monsters' attack. That will probably never happen. Like, you're not actually going to be taking that damage, because if you're in a situation where you need to activate it just so you can survive, obviously your opponent's going to be attacking into those monsters, or at that point they'll just pass their turn and they won't attack them. You'll take some small damage, but yeah, it's just a card that you can utilize after you go for a play. It's kind of like your rebuttal, although Backs to the Wall can be also utilized. I personally feel like Soul Charge might just be a better option because it's a faster card. Also, if you really want some like back row, obviously Solemns are really great in combination with Xian, because sometimes they go for you know, their 1 play and you stop that 1 play, and if you have like a Solemn to follow up like a Xian, sometimes it's just like too difficult for certain decks to really do something. Or if you have an Atreus plus Warning, like that could just be like too much of an advantage from certain decks. That's just my personal thoughts on it. That's why I personally like Soul Charge and other faster cards. Cannon Traps can also be very good because protecting Atreus, whether it's like with like Ghost Ogre or Ash Blossom to stop them from adding a card that would get rid of it, really good stuff indeed. But anyways, let's go and jump into the extra deck. So we have 1 copy of the newer 6 Samurai card. This is Rihan. He's the new fusion. He requires 3 6 Samurai monsters with different attributes, but at that point, I'd rather just make another Link monster, and that's pretty much what people do. I think this card, it just got out power crept. Like, it came out way too late here in the TCG for us to really utilize it, but it's cool that we have it nonetheless. So anyways, once per turn, you can banish a 6 samurai monster from your hand or face up on your field. You target 1 card on the field and banish it. And then if a 6 samurai monster you control would be destroyed, or by battle of a card effect, you banish this card from your graveyard instead. So this one, it has that ability to protect it from being destroyed by battle. The other cards are like, it's very specific. If exactly 1 6 samurai would be destroyed by card effect, you can banish it. But I just, again, felt like he just kind of doesn't see very much play anymore. Like, I don't think a lot of people even play this card anymore. Again, because of Link era format, whatever you guys want to call it, people just kind of phased him out. Same thing with Xian. Xian doesn't see as much play. I know people got really hyped up when they would put Xian to 3 in the TCG, but again, Atreus is just a more optimal card. You can probably drop this, and you can drop that if you want. But keep in mind, that's just my suggestions for you guys. Obviously, I think Castell is still just a fantastic card. It's just, there's so many times where like Castell is just a really optimal card to get rid of like random other cards for your deck, but anyways, yeah, there was originally 2 Xians in here. Then 1 Atreus, 1 Xian over here, which is the one where it basically is only utilized to boost up this. Plus, it's another 6 Samurai, so it gets counters, but that's pretty much all he's there for. Then we got the Topological Bomber Dragon, we got the Boreal Dragon, Skull Deep, Firewall, Gaia Saber, Decode Talker, Trigate Wizard, Mrs. Radiant, Proxy Dragon, and Link Karibo. One other suggestion I can have for this is honestly Grinder Golem would make this deck even better, because, I mean, you guys already saw he was making crazy plays without even going for Grinder Golem. I know Grinder Golem, oh, let me go to Grinder Golem. Technically, it has that effect, whereas if you special summon this, you cannot normal summon or set a monster during the same turn. However, you can actually utilize effects of like these to special summon other monsters, and then you can go for asceticism. So you're special summoning like crazy anyways. And then to top that off, if you're making other cards like, let's say, Firewall Dragon, or if you happen to be making Skull Deep, at that point, you'll be good to go, because you're going to be gaining that ability to just special summon additional monsters from your hand. So that downside of you not being able to normal summon, that doesn't really matter. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have already seen the Grinder Golem combos, but let me know, guys, what you think of this build of Link 6 Samurais. Let me know what you'd add and remove. Like I said, I gave you guys some of my suggestions, but I also wanted to mention one more card, 6 Samurai. There's a card that did see some play a long time ago when 6 Samurais were actually really popular. Inishu Xian's Chancellor. So he's able to special summon himself by banishing 2 6 Samurai monsters from her graveyard. and it can be supposed to summon other ways. But once per unique target face-up monster, you destroy that target, and then this card can't attack if you activate that effect. But what you do is you can banish it, obviously, with again, but you're able to add back the cards anyways, so you can just go back and add keys on. And then on top of that, you can destroy a monster, and then you just use him for link material, and then you just go off, and the downside of him not being able to attack is irrelevant. But yeah, it just gets rid of like another additional monster, can kind of be used to bait out some extra back row. But he was an okay card for me when I was trying out him in a link version of the deck. But yeah, that's basically what I wanted to talk about. Let me know again your guys' thoughts, or if you guys have cool combos, let me know down below. But wow, this 20-minute video because I wanted to explain things because again, Six Samurais is a very popular older deck, but for the newer players, I wanted to explain some things for you guys. But anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, go ahead and slap Reno on that like button, and if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button for more new Yu-Gi-Oh videos.